Welcome back to the Stars and Scrums, episode 3. So, after the pool stages are gone and everything is set for the semifinals. With me, I have today Tom Mitchell, a former Olympian player for Great Britain and England Sevens, one of our main commentators for the Men's Rugby Europe Championship games, and also as a World Series Sevens commentator, one of the voices of the Sevens and also rugby. Tom, thank you for coming for the Stars and Scrums. So, how was you weekend you had? Well, Germany Belgium ended up to being a great game. It was very fun. So, what were your thoughts about this round 3 of the Men's Rugby Europe Championship?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Francisco. Good to be on the pod and talk all things Rugby Europe Championship. I've been lucky because this is now my third year commentating on the championship, and you get to know more of the narratives and you get to feel even more in it. And so the brilliant thing about round 3 was that obviously we kind of knew the lay of the land with some of the teams that had got qualification and were going through, and obviously that has proven an amazing narrative through this year's Rugby Europe Championship, that element of qualification for the Rugby World Cup in a couple of years' time. But there was a real scrap, wasn't there? Because for the seeding teams, knowing that especially for Belgium and Germany, that was a big result because being honest, like the next level for them and whichever way they came out, whether they're going to play Netherlands or Switzerland, is quite a big swing. No disrespect to Switzerland, but obviously the new teams in this year. They've had some great history, scoring their first points, getting their first international home games at this level and getting the crowd in. So loads of success, but I think you'd have to own up that you'd rather play them in the next round to try and get into that 5th place playoff. So all of those little stories were fascinating. So yeah, pleasure to be calling the games. I got to say, Belgium, they were pretty hot.
Yeah, they were. It was that first half they dominated and showed well what they can do. Tom, looking as you are one of the quickest players I have seen in the sevens in the 2010s, how do you rate Belgium's quick, rapid players like Dazi Cornez on the wings? How would you rate them?
They've got a good back three, but you know what I mean? It's not just the back three. I mean, I could wax lyrical about the backs all day, but I'm biased, all right? Because those are my guys. That's the type of player I was. That's the type of player I like. Do you know what I love about Belgium is their dynamic forward pack, actually. They showed that they can mix it up front when they played against Portugal, and they actually bullied them a little bit, especially close to the line. Portugal struggled to contain them in that area. So they can do the rough stuff, but they're also very mobile, very agile. And I think that blend they've got throughout the squad is really interesting. I see a few behind the scenes updates pop up on my LinkedIn because Jeff Williams, Chris Cracknell work a little bit with the Sevens team. And I know Jeff Williams, former England Sevens player and Bath rugby player, has been doing some stuff with the 15 side as well. And so I know there's big movements happening in Belgian rugby. And it's good to see some of that coming out onto the field and displaying some really nice, cohesive, enjoyable rugby to watch as well.
Good to know. Tom, we're going now watch some of the moments so we can break it down a bit. So explain how the mindset behind it, the strategy, and we'll start with the first game we had on the weekend. I think you were on comms also, if I'm not
I
wrong.
was lucky. I did 2 games this weekend.
Oh, you're
What a
lucky.
treat.
But well, you are one of the quickest sevens players, so you deserve to get it. So let's watch Netherlands Switzerland. I think this was the Dutch second or third try. Let's watch it.
Yeah, so what I like about this one is that actually the forwards won that against the head. It was a Swiss scrum. And then this is my favourite bit of play. The little scoot off the base. Just love that. No hesitation, just backing himself to go through. And then, of course, the man to pop up on the shoulder, Spike Salmon, who is just got the most fabulous engine in the game. So as we watch it through here, you can see the forwards do the hard work up front. They won the ball against the head. Nice little assessment. Rather than waiting for the penalty, they're off and running. The Dutch taking it to the Swiss. They already got a bit up on the scoreboard, and this really cemented the lead. Great to see Spike Salmon picking up off the scrum, getting on the support line and getting his reward. Love that.
Tom, question: the scrum half, Boris Hadigoro. quickly got out of the scrum after getting the penalty advantage. His running line was perfect for you.
Well, the thing is that Hadi Nagoro, he was so quick. He was doing it all game, getting off the base in open play. He's got that acceleration to get out and away from whether that's the scrum or the ruck, and he was using it to good effect. And a great example here. Look at the speed with which he gets across the field and he gets outside of the Swiss back row. That's the key to making that happen. Gets in behind the defense and then lifts the offload, spots his support player really nicely.
Well, Netherlands did a great job against Switzerland. Their attack finally started to click and show promise. It was not only the forwards; it was the whole team. So, how would you rate the growth of the Legions men in the last 2 years? You have been following them for the last three because of commentating the game. So, how do you rate this growth of the Orange?
Yeah, do you know what? It was funny because Lynn Jones was very sympathetic towards the Swiss and the journey that they were on in terms of their growth, because obviously they've been through that journey. And I think Jones was quite nervous before the game. I think they felt like they were quite beaten up after two tough rounds. And yet his players came out with such a zip, such energy, which was really impressive. They really set the tone in that game in terms of the intensity and the tempo it was going to be played with. And that was the most impressive thing. It sets up a very, I don't want to look too far ahead now. We've got plenty to debrief, but it sets up a very interesting game in the next round. The neighbors playing each other, Germany and Netherlands. I think that's going to be a cracker of a game, but I think the Netherlands will be confident going into that. Some of their attack play was really, really strong. For me, it's whether they can maintain some of those defensive connections to keep teams from scoring, because I think they've got the firepower to score enough tries.
Okay, so you were talking about, well, Germany and Belgium. Let's look to the last game of the weekend and Belgium's first try with Dazi Cornet, that you really liked it. So, which will be which will be a problem for Switzerland to handle. So let's watch it.
Yeah, so this really encapsulated so much about this game that was good from Belgium. Really slick. That's a bit of play that's off the training ground, but it's just the timing. They get advantage here, but rather than just settling for the penalty to kick the 3 points, they play. They've got multiple lines of running. You can see off the ball here, players are setting up, ready for this to come out. And when it finally does come out, they've got runners in the front line and runners in behind. It goes behind on the first one, then it goes to the short line. Then they're coming through in support, slick hands. And of course, the wingers get to do the easy bit and they get the glory on the end. It was a really good whole team try. Not just the timing and the passing, but the support play as well was simply wonderful. And you can't ask for anything more if you're a coach of this. It's a line out. It's only just inside the opposition half. They pick the right options here. Great carry. Well, good work getting back in away from the touchline on the carry. They have to do a bit of work recycling, but they do a decent job. Hendricks nearly gets caught up in there. Probably another penalty, to be honest. Germany gave away just a few in this game. Really nice, though. Just making good reads. They got the look when they play like this, and this wasn't the only example, the look of a team that's really well together with great cohesion.
Yeah, I guess Portugal did do this at first try. That scored with Jens Torf just blasting in. So, do you think this Belgium can be, if they win against Switzerland and Netherlands defeats Germany, can they be the problem for the Dutch?
100%. Yeah, I think there'll be a problem. Absolutely. They've just got dangerous runners. Like you mentioned earlier, Sornen had a great game. He was pretty lethal. Just his ability to change direction. We've got Cornez, obviously, with his pace and power on the other wing. They were steered around the park. Montoya is so composed at scrum half. He just looks like he's in control the whole time. If I was going to play against him, I'd probably get one of my forwards to get on him early doors, maybe a little late hit or something early on, just to try and throw him off, because he just looks like he's cruising through the game. He looks like he's playing the game at his pace. And so I think if they play that way against the Swiss, and then they're allowed to play that way against whoever they play in the next round, whether it's the Germans again or the Dutch, then they'll be a very tough team to beat. if I was going to play against Belgium, I'd try and disrupt that tempo. Because when they're allowed to play with that tempo, they look very, very sharp.
Okay, tempo is key for Belgium. So any team who wants to break them down or stop them has to turn it down. So talking about tempo, let's watch it. Diniashvili's try was incredible, insane, like you told before we started recording. But we actually picked Martino Sian's try, and Tom is going to explain why we picked this one. Let's watch it.
Well, let's have a look first, and I'll talk you through it, and then I'll explain why I made the decision. So what I love here is they come out left to the open side, but actually there's nothing on. Most of his players and the space is back on that far side. And it's just the most creative, inventive way of exploiting that space. And then the finish is wonderful. And there's no mistake. But this, for me, is all about that first bit. I'd said to you, Francisco, didn't I, that I've been coaching some kids, and I'm always encouraging them to express themselves and to find creative ways of attacking the space. Well, this is brave. Going back against the grain, putting the kick in. You could say it gets a bit lucky with the bounce, but you make your own luck in this game. And then it's the flooding through, the change of direction, the understanding of where the support players are. It's all very well making the initial line break, but finishing the dinner, all important, and a nice dive as well. I like that.
It's a great dive, and it was a great team move. 5 team who's play. They were losing by 35 5 points. So it was to come out of that result and try to do something different. This kick, how do you would rate it, Tom?
Well, it's perfectly weighted, really nice execution. It's an interesting point you make, Francisco, about whether it's easier to try things like that when you're losing, either when you're miles ahead or you're a little bit behind, because you feel like, oh, we might as well try stuff. My argument would be, and I try and tell this to players all the time, the mindset should be, if that's the right decision, then that's the right decision. Whether it's, the scores are even and it's the final minute, or you're 20 points up or 20 points down. The best decision is the best decision. So I always try, and I think that was a great call. It's nice, creative, it's different. And I think if we can find new ways of playing the game, new ways of attacking, new ways of defending, I love to see that. Driving the game forward. I think it makes it interesting for players. It makes it exciting for fans. It's what you want to see. Wrapping all that up, you're giving him a nod. But Niniashvili's solo effort in that game, and he's one of my favorite players to watch, by the way, was wonderful. But it's not the first time we've seen him do it.
Yeah, exactly. Niniashvili was insane in this pool stage, and it's great to have all these superstars rocking. There's another superstar that I know that you are very fond of, Nicolas Martin or Martins. So he scored a try against Romania. Let's watch it, and Tom will also break it down for us.
Well, do you know what I like about Nicolas is that he's just everywhere in the game, right? And he does all the stuff you're supposed to do as a back row. But then he obviously scores loads of tries. He plays out on the wit, so he will be on the end of some of these. And my final nod to Nicolas is his, like, people probably disregard some of his nuts and bolts work around the ruck and line out and things like that. Like, he does the forward stuff and he plays 80 minutes. He plays hard graft. But he's just so agile, so mobile that he manages to get up on the end of plays like this. So enough about Nicola. Run it through for me one more time, Francisco, because then I'm going to talk it through about the whole team. It's a little bit of a long kick from Romania, and you can't afford to do this against Portugal because they're lethal. The timing on that pass and the ability to make that initial break is wonderful. The little dummy inside, then they play to the outside where the support runners are lining up for the try. That's the threat that Portugal pose with their counter-attack. I would be very careful kicking to Portugal. I say this before, I said this before, I'll say it again. You have to be careful kicking to them. You've either got to make it contestable, or I'd be looking at 50-22s going towards the touchline. Those would be my priorities. I wouldn't want to kick to their back three, the players that are, they're mobile back rowers that are sitting back there, and give them a chance to run back.
There's something interesting in this video. If you watch Nicolas Martin, and he is here. Look what he does with his arm when Simon breaks the line. So it's so he's already asking for the ball. This is what you want from a player, asking for an opportunity, asking to get the ball, right, Tom?
Absolutely. And the thing is, a little bit of detail, especially for any youngsters listening or people learning the game. he doesn't know that the space is on for him until he has a look up. He has a look up there. He knows he's an option now. Then, because he's had a look and seen the space, gets his hand in the air to help his ball carrier, help his teammate out who's carrying the ball, and let him know where the space is and where the options are. He doesn't get it first time. It goes through a pair of hands before it makes its way to him. But he's already signaled to that initial ball carrier, right, the space is here. This is where we need to go to.
Tom, Spain is going to face Portugal in Lisbon in the first weekend of March. What would be your advice for the Leones to not for that game? What they should not do against the Lobos?
What should you not do? Well, I sort of said one thing about, loose kicking is dangerous. I think you don't want to kick loosely to Portugal. I'd actually think more about trying to keep ball in hand. Spain are pretty good when they get layers of attack, and by that I mean having runners out the back, little offloads or little lifts to players running around. So trying to be creative about how they're going to break the Portuguese defense down. I don't think they'll be able to beat them up front. I think they're going to have to be creative. They're going to have to move the ball, change the point of attack. I think that's how they'll get some change. It might not happen straight away. It might happen later in the game, but I think if they can stick to that tactic, then they'll make inroads. Obviously, look, tough ask for Spain. Portugal, good team. We'll see what kind of team comes out. I don't know if you'll know better than me if they've picked up any knocks off that last game, but certainly Portugal going in as favourites. And interestingly, I wonder whether Portugal will tighten things up a bit. If Spain do start to play a bit of a looser game, whether Portugal just tighten it up, utilise the set piece a little bit more, go to scrum, line out, just to try and put a bit of structure on the game. Be interesting to see how that develops.
Okay, and thank you for that insight. And I want to hear more, but let's first hear from some of our protagonists. We'll start with the first game of the weekend we had. So it was Netherlands, Switzerland. Let's start with Tim Voetley, Switzerland captain.
Hi Tim, what do you feel your team was missing today?
We said in the last game that we wanted to start strong, start quick, and we just didn't have that. In this league, in this championship, you don't get given anything, you have to take it, and we just didn't take it from the off. The Dutch started quick, they started strong, and we just couldn't take it. It took us a long time to switch that around. That was the issue, straight from the go.
Tom, I know it was not a game that Switzerland wanted to show to everyone, but what positives will you take from that game against Netherlands? I know it's hard because it was a 73-0 scoreline in the end, but what positives can they take?
Well, I think the first thing is just framing that scoreboard doesn't look good, but recognizing just how well the Netherlands played. Actually, they were really ruthless, they were clinical, they had opportunities and they scored them. So they didn't give the Swiss much chance. I think Tim was good observation that the Dutch started much better and they were always chasing the game. But we talked during the game, Bernsey and I, about the journey that Swiss team is on. And actually, it's probably not that much about the results in this first year. This first year is about the journey. It's about experiencing what it's like at this level, seeing if you can develop and step up as individuals, but also getting those team experiences. And there were moments in that game, especially in the second half, where the Swiss actually, they came back and they didn't roll over. They could have easily checked out and said, you know what, like, we haven't had much time to train together and we're the newly promoted side. There's a lot of excuses, right? But at no point did it look like they were playing with the excuses. It always looked like they were willing to just stay in there, keep fighting, keep scrapping. And it feels like consolation. Don't get me wrong. Competitive players, you never want to just have that as consolation, but that's really something to build on.
Something to build on. And it's, thank you for, that great talk. I think if we have any players or staff from Switzerland, they'll be happy to hear what Tom just said. Now let's hear from Lynn Jones, one of the legends of our Rugby Europe landscape.
What are your feelings about that victory?
Yeah, we're very delighted. We're delighted with the standard of play. These games can be quite difficult at times, and Georgia showed us the way a few weeks ago. We played accurately, and we executed very well. And we had a good game today, and we achieved lots. It's a record score for Netherlands Rugby Union, and we made sure that the opposition didn't score a try. So that's a positive as well.
What made it?
Tom, it was a record for the Netherlands. It's a Lin John's record, and if he gets that fifth place, well, they still have to go for the repechage. But what job he has done thus far with Orange, right?
Yeah, it made me laugh, that interview, because he said we're delighted, but he said it's such a deadpan way that I was like, Lynn Jones, you don't look that delighted. But I'm sure he is, because it was really an accomplished performance. And he's been in Rugby Europe long enough and at different levels of the game of rugby to know that no scoreline takes care of itself. You can always be beaten by a team, even if they're lower ranked than you. You still have to turn up on the day. And I think he would have been looking for a performance from that game, not just a result, but a performance. And I think he got it from his team. And I think that's why he was so pleased, because they played like a team that was really going to challenge for that qualification spot. I'd be, fascinated to be in that group and know what the conversation is around that, looking to the future, or whether they're just in the here and now and just enjoying it. They certainly played like a team that's very present, but also playing like a team that's ambitious. So I think the thing he'd be most pleased about was the no score. To keep a team to 0 against any side is an achievement for 80 minutes. So, yeah, I think he must be chuffed. Fascinated to see whether they can play that way in the next match against a stronger opposition in Germany. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be tough. They're going to be fired up.
Yeah, talking about Germany, let's hear from Jon Schröder, captain of the Schwarze Adler.
We're here with the German captain, Jon Schröder. What do you think? What was your team liking today in order to come out on top?
Yeah, we're missing the detail. I think the Belgian team did really well. In the first half, they dominated collisions. We didn't find into the game. Our rucks was a bit messy, but I'm actually happy that we fought back in the second half and scored some tries and finished the game on a high with the last try. Yeah.
So in 2 weeks, it's going to be semi-finals time. What will be important to work on until then?
Like I said, we have to regroup and have to work on our details. Especially lineouts still missing. We can't win a game when we don't get our clean ball from the lineout, and also the ball security. But yeah, we have 2 weeks time to regroup, and then we go back to, I think, Netherlands is the game now. And yeah, we're looking forward.
Thank you very much, Jon.
Tom, Jorn was talking about the lineouts, but at the last 20 minutes, we saw a different Germany from what we saw in the first 60. So what would you want to see more from them the next game against the Netherlands?
Yeah, they did come back and they showed real fight, and it was nice that they managed to finish with a score at the end of the game, and they got over the line a couple of times in the match. So it wasn't that they left with nothing. It was a nice try in the end as well. It was Cam McDonald scored in the corner, which was a good one. But they gave away too many penalties. First half, I think they had 10 penalties they gave away, 2 yellow cards. You're going to struggle. So discipline was something for me. But I think they were forced into ill discipline because they were put under so much pressure at the ruck. And Belgium were just really putting the pressure on, whether it was jackal or actually counter-rucking. And I think that was what Jon was talking about, ball retention. They just weren't able to maintain the whole ball to get their attack up and running. And so there's a few obvious things to address there. The problem is you have, 2 weeks? Is it 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
They have. So not much time to change a lot of things. They can probably tweak the line out a bit in that time. They can probably dial the decision-making around some of the penalties, perhaps, but there was a lot of different ones, so that's tough. As to whether you can change that much around ruck time, I don't know. They can probably tidy some stuff up. But the reality is you can't shift the whole heap in 2 weeks. So they might need to just focus on right, we're just going to park some of that, because the risk is you try and fix a lot. And then you busy yourself for 2 weeks, and then you're suddenly not in a good place to play a game. the key thing, and we used to get this a lot with sevens, obviously, trying to play one weekend and then the next, and it's tournament format rugby, right? You have to be able to get the balance between what can we improve on in a short space of time versus actually let's just get ourselves in the best place possible physically and mentally for the game to come.
Okay, and well, let's see if Germany can offer a great clash against the Netherlands. Now, next, let's hear from Charles-Henri Berger, who I think was player of the match picked by you and Nick Heath in the Germany-Belgium game. So let's hear from him and what he thought went well for his team.
Prop, doing the business for the boys in red.
We are here with Belgian prop Charles-Henri Berger. Congratulations, you are the man of the match. Are you satisfied with the result and your performance today?
Oh yeah, I'm really satisfied with the performance of the team. I think we had the show stuff and we show what we really can do. We have a lot of work still to do, but what we did today was really good for us in the head and for the mindset and for the families back home. So I'm really happy of the prestation and what we did today.
Thank you again, and have a good journey back.
Tom, you were saying that Charles-Henri did the business. So it's not common to see a prop getting player of the match. So why did you and Nick pick Charles-Henri, and why is he so special for the Diable Noir?
Well, it's also even less common for me to give player of the match to front row forward, right? Because, you know, I'm always busy watching the 9s, the 10s, and all the backs do the pretty stuff, okay? But he was awesome. Like, he just looked like the type of guy you'd love to have on your team. He looked like he was really enjoying the game as well. He came up with a try, which is not all that common sometimes for front row forwards. But it wasn't just the fact that he crossed the whitewash. He was one of the biggest disruptors at ruck time. He was really powerful in terms of driving through, counter-rucking against the Germans a few times. It just seemed like he was everywhere. Good energy about him, never went missing. And then if all that wasn't enough, I saw that he was leading the post-game like song and dance on the pitch as well. So I was like, well, for that alone, he probably deserves an extra trophy. So yeah, really good. I loved what he was saying in that interview as well. Not just recognizing the families, because we forget that sometimes, that these boys, you know, the families live the emotions of these games as well. So he was a nod to that. But also he talked about mindset. And I think there's something about that result in particular and the way they played, which might just give them the belief, the confidence to go on and do some really special things, whether it's in this championship or a little bit further in the future. But they're probably a team that is still in that process of building that belief and building the confidence of being able to beat the teams that are seeded ahead of them and things like that. So it was interesting that he referenced that. And I suspect they'll be talking a lot about that as they move through the next couple of rounds.
And Tom, you liked Charles-Henri, and I hope that you can start to get inducted in the Church of the Front Rowers. So welcome to it. But I know that you love a back more. So with that being said, let's hear from David Niniashvili, captain of Georgia for the last game against Spain, and one of the best in the field. Well, he was a player of the match with a hat trick. So let's hear from him.
Let's see what he's got to say.
Hi, David. Congratulations for the game. It was great. What were the key elements in your win?
Firstly, thank you. I want to thank you, the Georgian supporters, who come here and support us. We made some mistakes, but it will be changed for the next game. Next game we received maybe Romania, I think, and we will be playing home. And always be playing home is very important.
Okay, and what's the program for the next weeks to prepare for the semi-final?
I want to say win this championship again and beat everyone. That's all.
Tom, so young, but already so mature, out to the point he is already captain of Georgia. Played as a fly half, which is not a normal position for him. Is Niniashvili one of the best at the moment in our world rugby community?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been, you remember, you only have to go back Well, it was only a couple of years, I suppose, but it's maybe longer. You forget because he's so young that he was doing amazing things when he first landed on the scene. He's always had that elusivity as a runner. I might have made up a word. Elusivity, is that even a word? I don't know. He's an elusive runner, dangerous ball carrier, great in the air, good kicking game. But I like him slotting in at 10 because I think for his own development and growth, it's really nice for him to add some qualities to his game. Like whether we'll see him playing fly half that often in the top 14, I don't know. But like for his country, I think this could be a big thing for him. And it's a great position to lead from as well, because you're steering it all. You're always in the middle of the park. You're talking your team through the game. So I think it's good for his development and his progression. I mean, look, he's sort of in that upper echelon of players, isn't he? In Europe at the moment, arguably has been for a few years now, and he just lends something to the game. He comes up with something that makes the highlights reel pretty much every match he plays in. So what more could you want? And he makes the point about playing at home. You always get the sense with Georgia there's this pride that they carry, perhaps more than some other teams. And no disrespect to any other teams, but I think they're really driven by that. So the opportunity to play at home will be big for them. And I think they do carry pressure on their shoulders, right? In the Rugby Europe Championship, they're expected to win it. And so they have to manage that pressure. And he seems like pressure isn't something that weighs him down too much, which he'll be rubbing off well for the rest of the team.
Tom, a question for you about this and the type of play that Nina actually is. You played against and you were yourself an unstoppable player with the ball. How do you stop this type of players? How can a team stop a guy like Niniashvili without, weakening any areas of the game, so allowing the other players to step in and get inside the try area? So how do you stop it efficiently? Is there a way to stop him efficiently?
Well, you make a good point there. The reality is you can't stop everything. So actually, if you're going to target an individual, a top player, it means you're probably going to weaken yourself somewhere else. So you have to make that trade-off sometimes. But I think it's probably worth doing, right? You don't want to. So there are different ways of doing that. For example, defensively, if you know that they've got a particularly good runner, you might have to tighten your defense around that runner or not allow that runner to get the ball. So it might mean rushing on that defender before they get the ball. So you almost, and I don't think we see this enough for international rugby, by the way, defenses should be dictating to attack where the ball goes. You don't want to wait and sit and wait and let the attack tell you where they're going to go, right? Because then it's too late. You need to be right. I don't want them to pass Niniashvili the ball. So I'm going to rush up on him and force them to, carry inside, whatever it is. Obviously, you're putting pressure on other bits of your defense if you do that. But maybe that's the trade-off that's required. You're playing Georgia, you've got to roll the dice. You've got to do something, because otherwise, let's be honest, the form book suggests that they're going to just keep winning. So I'd love to see a team just do something crazy. Like, we don't see it a lot at international level. I think, trying to think of an example. I mean, the most obvious one was years ago when Italy did that ruck tactic against England in the Six Nations. And England didn't know what to do with it. That's the kind of way you need to think when you're playing Georgia. How can we do something then that's going to throw them off their game? Something unexpected. Look, I don't have all the answers, but maybe some of the coaches out there do.
Great. And let's hear from a coach, Pablo Botha, Spain's head coach, who gave a bit of insight of how the game went for them.
Points for them. And we can have a word now with the Spain coach, the former Puma, Paulo Balsa.
Today, what are your thoughts after the game?
It's very tough. Georgia was quite better today, so this is a difference between Spain and Georgia at the moment. So we have to work to improve and to the next match to be better than today. I think today in the first half, finished the match after 25 minutes.
Okay, and what positive points can you take from today to prepare for the semi-finals against Portugal?
The positive that we scored 4 tries, and we are playing with young team against like Georgia, a team like Georgia that they are giving experience and working to arrive in the best shape for the World Cup.
Tom, it was not the result that Pablo Botha and Spain wanted, but from your perspective, it's a team that it's growing to become another behemoth in the Rugby Europe competitions.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how Spain progress over the next couple of years, really. Especially now they know the direction of travel. They know what the road looks like ahead of them. Because it was very clear last year watching them in the Rugby Europe Championship, they had a lot of young guys. They rotated the squad a lot, if you remember last year, bringing some players in. So I'm fascinated to see where that men's team go. Obviously, their sevens team has been doing wonderfully this year on the World Series. So does that help in terms of the overall feeling of rugby in the country? And so I think there's good momentum at the moment for the team. And, as Bosa said, they're scoring tries, which is good. A lot of it's experience. And they'll be relishing all of these stages of the competition to gain experience. The key thing is to capture some of that learning, right? Young players, sometimes they just want to go to the next game and move on. So hopefully the coaching staff and the management are really helping them tease out the learning. Like, what can we savor from this? Win, lose, draw games. What can we learn that's going to make us better in the future? Because we know that international rugby is gold dust. Playing international test matches is gold dust. So making the most of these opportunities, I think, is big for that Spanish team.
And opportunities, it's what they earn and deserve. So let's hear now from the last game. Romania, Portugal start first with David Gerard, Romania's head coach.
As is a bitter call to reality.
Yes, but they are much better to us. We're not playing our best game, of course, but after Portugal playing a good game, you can't beat them by being penalized 70 times and to have 3 yellow cards. They have much more players to us who play high-level rugby, and that's why we're competing with them at 14 and 13. It's clearly impossible. Yes, it's our biggest problem at the moment, the non-capacity to play 2-3 games a row at high level. But it's still like this. We knew we wanted to test. Now we know they are much better to us, and we have a lot of work to do if we want to compete now.
Still,
Tom, you've commented Romania since 2023. They had a bad year in 2023. 2024, they fought to get better, and in this year, I think there's growth in the team. But what's your intake about the Senjari?
Well, it was interesting. David Gerard saying that they're still struggling in competition format when you have to go week on week. And I think it's something we always have to remind ourselves on as fans is the teams aren't coming in fresh every week. Mentally and physically, they've had to manage that fatigue from the weeks before. And the suggestion was from Gerard that they're not doing it that well. And often you'll see it. You'll see penalties, yellow cards, because it's the mental fatigue, the inability to stay on it, or you start making lazy decisions or taking the easy route, making illegal calls. So that's a fascinating one. And that's just, unfortunately, there's no quick fix for that. That's something that comes with time, which, you don't have when you're in the middle of a competition. But yeah, I enjoyed the reflection there. It's really philosophical. They'll be back to the drawing board to some extent, but I think they'll also be carrying a bit of confidence, as you say.
And well, talking about confidence, let's hear from Tomás Appleton, who was very happy how the game panned out for Portugal.
tonight for you.
Yeah, it was a great victory for us. It was our main goal is to come here and win and have a semi-final at home. So I think we accomplished this. We managed the game really well. We played on the right areas of the field, and that made a huge difference. Our defense really stepped up, and a massive word to our forwards today because they were brilliant.
You didn't seem to get the cold.
No, yeah, it's freezing. It's freezing out here. Minus 5 degrees is not what we're used to, and we really struggled at the beginning, especially with the breathing. It was really tough, but yeah, we got used to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Tom, from you called Portugal Belgium the first game. The Lobos had a tough time with Belgium, especially in those last 25 minutes. From this last game, what you've seen that they got better from that first game.
Yeah, it's interesting that the thing I think they got better at, which was setting the tone of the game. I think they were really dictated to in that opener against Belgium. I think they were relatively comfortable in the victory, but it didn't feel like they really took the game by the scruff of the neck and dictated, which is what they should be doing now with their experience and the caliber of their team. They should really be setting the tone. I think they did that better in that last game against Romania. And interestingly, they had the challenge of the conditions, which they're not used to, which obviously as an Englishman sat here in English winter, I'm like, what are you talking about? It's fine. But they'll be very pleased to have that home game back to a slightly warmer climate. And no doubt they'll be confident going to their match against Spain.
Now, talking about fixtures, in the 1st of March, we're going to have Netherlands, Germany, then Portugal, Spain, then Belgium, Switzerland, and then the next day, on the 2nd of March, Georgia and Romania to finish the semi-finals. Tom, I asked this to Will Owens, Gauthier Baudin. Now it's your turn. Predictions. So Netherlands, Germany, who gets the win?
Netherlands.
By how much? By the difference of how many points?
10 points. 10-point game.
So, and Portugal, Spain.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see a close game. I just think Portugal will win quite comfortably, maybe by 15 points or more.
Okay. So, and Belgium, Switzerland?
That could be a big score, unfortunately. I think Belgium, they could put 30 more points on Switzerland there, I'm afraid.
And to finish things off, the champions, Georgia against Romania.
The unstoppable juggernaut of Georgia. That's a line I'm going to use on comms. They're gonna cruise that. I think they're gonna find that easy at home, fired up home crowd. That could be 40 points.
And thank you for predictions, Tom. Before
I've made myself a villain there against him.
No. It's interestingly, you've picked all the home teams to win, so it's not strange your pick. So before we sail off, do you want to share the last words for our audience?
No, just keep tuning in. Rugby Europe TV, going to be showing all the action, and it's a really fascinating year. It's also a great time if you're new to it. Great time to start following some of these teams, not just for the Rugby Europe Championship this year and years to come, but also in the next couple of years on the journey to the Rugby World Cup. Exciting times for all these teams.
Remember, you can engage with Tom Mitchell on Twitter and Instagram, a former Olympian, coaching also kids, and doing our comms for Rugby Europe. So thank you, Tom, for coming for the Stars and Scrums. You yourself you are still a star, I know, but and so thank you for giving your time, and I hope we're going to get you calling at least one of our games on the weekend that the semis go on. So thank you,
for having me.
And let's say goodbye to the audience. Bye-bye.
Cheers.